This is the Civilization Battle Royale X, Season 5, Episode 10. I Put a Spell on You. Hey people, Lasketo here. I'm the in-house artist for the CBR and a power ranker, but this week I'm your narrator. This must be, the third time I've taken a shot at writing an episode. Pretty sure it's the first one I actually followed through on and finished, though, so you're gonna have to put up with me for a whole episode. It's gonna be a bit of a narrative-heavy one, so don't say I didn't warn you. And of course, as always, the CBR is filmed in front of a live studio audience. The showrunner's wife. Scythia might have learned to fight wars good, but they're still huge stoners. Pomo or Tlingit? It's the big debate this season, maybe only behind Pomo and Teotihuacan. What is it about Pomo, anyway? Big shout out to everyone crazy enough to give us money every month. For real though, it's a huge help. We also have a range of stickers and magnets available, drawn by yours truly, so place your orders now. Y'all really like Pomo, huh? Last week's biggest loser was Wasulu, who plummeted a whole 16 places, barely keeping out of the bottom 10. The main reason for that was, of course, their war with Ores. That's ongoing, by the way, so they could fall even further. Anyway, without further ado, the Pegu War is a right mess. Bangladeshi and Lanfang ships struggle not to crash into each other, while on the land, soldiers from both armies race towards the walls of Hong Sawatoy. The city's bound to fall, it's just a question of who to. Samori Toure surveys the troops in Medina as the refugees start trickling in from out east. The wind blows into the city from across the Sahara, yet somehow it feels bitter cold. He shudders. Somewhere in a cave deep in the Tel Atlas Mountains, Dihya sits beside a fire pit, the light of the flames glinting off her crown. Her enemies say she's a sorceress. They're right. She mutters something, casts a powder into the fire. It burns green, and for a brief moment the likeness of Amina can be seen before vanishing into the flames. The Queen of Zazao awakens from her sleep with a jolt. "Samori Toure must die," she screams. It's not an unpopular sentiment. The people still remember the loss of Turunku, and even if they cannot regain their lost glory, there's still a chance for revenge. Troops immediately start marching along the coast, bound for Wasulu. With Tlingit trounced and the other coalition partners beaten back, the people of the Anishinaabe find more strength in their faith. A council of the priesthood is carried into power off the back of this, and Pontiac made head of the faith. Anishinaabe joins Pomo and Ket as one of the Cylinder's theocracies. The fact it's a Methodist theocracy takes some of the oomph out of it. The Guaycuru establish a fishing outpost on the far-flung island of South Georgia. It also serves as a potential refuge for Esso if things fall apart on the mainland. Not a bad call, given how scary Chono's starting to look. Up in the northern frontiers of the Kipchak Empire, Togortak summons his Tarkans. They line up outside the city of Kara, dwarfed by the scale of the enemy host. Ket has them outnumbered 2-1, and the men are getting nervous. Togortak calls for silence. "Tarkans, gentlemen, South America or the Serengeti, there's hardly a square foot of land in this world we haven't spilt blood on." He picks up a handful of earth from the ground. "But now we find ourselves fighting on our own soil, Kipchak soil. So I ask you, gentlemen, you can fight for money, but can you fight for freedom?" With a great roar, they all charge. The Hanseatic League joins in on the scramble for the North Sea by settling Stralsund. The area is turning into a proper melting pot. 3 civs with claims and counting, and ships from all corners of the world. A notable absence is Uel, though they do have a settler on the way. Back in her cave, Dihya casts 3 more dashes of powder into the fire. 3 more faces appear. Thousands of miles away, the Queen of Pegu and the presidents of Yunnan and Bangladesh all suddenly scream, "Samore Ture must die!" The main result of this is to confuse the shit out of everyone, because no one has any idea who that is. Regardless, if they ever meet the guy, he's dead. Amidst all the confusion, Lanfang manages to slip in and capture Mutama. The capital will probably be Bangladesh's at this point, but at least they'll have the Gulf of Thailand on lock. Meanwhile, in Arabia, Sumerian troops march on Karnabu and Inaba. The campaign seems to be running out of steam, though, and given the terrain, it's doubtful anything more will happen. Sumer's unlikely to break through, but Ma'in probably won't rebound either. Both sides settle down for what's likely to be a brutal war of attrition. "I thought you said you'd be back by 7, says Eanatum's wife. Just another few turns, babe." Joining the Manayan High Command is Janis Balodis, a Latvian general who actually served as second-in-command to Carlos Ulmanis. We'll see if his experience will help Ma'in turn this around. I've heard Seychellois Madagascar is lovely this time of year. Great beaches, no borders, and most importantly, far, far away from the war-torn mainland. 5 stars, would happily visit again. Off in the distance, we can just about see Kalonga Mazula's last-ditch attempt at taking Mankamba. It won't go anywhere, but that settler could easily grab another spot along the coast. King Franz Albert keeps an eye on it. He could always use another future foothold on the mainland. Sumer's war with Pakistan is, shockingly, backfiring. Uruk is starting to look in danger. Eanatum expected a rout. He starts panicking. This can't be happening to me. I'm a wife guy. What kind of sick fuck would do this to a wife guy? Things are looking pretty peaceful in the lands of Coral. Enjoying this era of prosperity, the people start looking out into the Great Blue Pacific and wondering what new possibilities it might hold. A settling party sets sail from Banduria, heading into the empty lands of Polynesia. The Yanomami, surprised to see the Lesser Antilles up for the taking, send settlers up to colonize them. The Zaragua don't seem to notice. Seems like they're busy with something. Buoyed by religious fervor, the Anishinaabe turn their focus onto Pomo. Trouble is, they're getting a bit carried away and just charging in without any target in mind. Splitting your army does not a good invasion make. Another familiar face joins the Manayan cause. This time it's Saladin of Ayyubid fame. He must be a pretty scary guy because Sumer immediately sues for peace. I don't blame Eanatum. He's got bigger things to worry about. With the last pockets of Wasulu resistance around Turunku crushed, the Ores turn their attention to the west. Samore Ture, watching them approach from the walls of Medina, braces for the worst, and the cold wind blows on. Circassia has a hotshot new general in to help their conquest of Sumer. "Trust me, I'm the real deal," says Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus, who gets mad if anyone tries to shorten his name. "I helped defeat Carthage in the Second Punic War, you know." Ismail Berzeg gives this due consideration. What on earth is a Carthage? "I think I heard the Phoenicians talking about it once," says one of his advisors. Jacob Marenga does not scream, "Samore Ture must die." He hasn't even been cursed at all. He just really hates the guy. Wasulu's too far away for him to do much, and he knows it, but it's the principle of the thing. In the meantime, he focuses on building back up, the war with Maravi having left his empire rather sparse. Tang recently entered the medieval era. It should be a moment of triumph, but the people aren't happy. That business with the man coming back to life in Ryukyu left everyone on edge. He keeps saying the darndest things, too. Japan keeps bulking up, settling Najima in Shandong. It'll be tricky to defend, but it could be a good beachhead for the inevitable war with Tang, when that finally happens. After years of careful work, the soothsayers of Zaragua have finally unveiled their secret weapon. They claim it can give advice, warn of threats to the kingdom, and above all, can tell the future. They call it the Oracle. Zaragua will languish no longer. The future is bright, and it begins today. Anakauna steps into the inner sanctum. The chamber is vast and cavern-like, totally cut off from the light of the sun, but she can just about make out a pedestal at the center. She approaches and sees a fortune cookie? Puzzled, she picks it up, snaps it, and a slip of parchment flutters out. Nothing ever happens. More and more settlers pour into the North Sea, with Kalmar's Roskilde being the latest addition. Scotland is leading the race for sure, with at least 4 on the go. The whales, meanwhile, appear to have run aground off the Hebrides. Not a great look, Grace. That Canadian colony is close to getting cut off, incidentally. Where is Grace O'Malley, anyway? Standing in his palace at Debre Baran, Zara Yacob admires his new robe in the mirror. The cut is excellent, of course, but being Phoenician-made, the real appeal is the color. Tyrian purple, you said. How do they achieve such a rich hue? I believe they use snails, my liege. Snails? Disgusted, Zara Yacob casts off the robe and summons his generals. I never want to see the color purple again, he growls. Oh, and if anyone so much as mentions escargot, you're leading the charge into Nashak. Japan constructs Chichen Itza in the city of Osaka. On a clear day, you can see all the way to Honshu from the top of the Kukulkan. It's really quite breathtaking. The Golden Age bonuses can't hurt either. A lone spearman scales the walls of Mutama and opens the gates from the inside. The city is Pegu's once more. This would be far more impressive if Hong Sawatoy wasn't currently crumbling under Bangladeshi onslaught. This is a tactical victory for Shinsabu, yes, but strategically she is still, as they say, up shit creek. The Ores begin to siege Medina in earnest. Realizing the city is all but lost, Samori Toure makes a hasty retreat back to his capital to prepare his defenses. Meanwhile, in the south, Zazao horsemen are starting to engage the enemy near Kerouane. Another dash of powder, another knife pointed at Samori Toure's back. Dihya is rather getting the hang of this. Togortak did his best to rally his Tarkans to the cause, but it was too much for some of them. One fled down here to Gojranwala. It's a border town, newly settled and right on the front in the event of a war, but for the time being it's peaceful, and much safer than the home country. The lone Tarkan rides through the hills and gazes up at the Himalayas around him. Far to the north, Roran and Itelmen are divvying up the frozen shores of the Arctic. It just don't make me deal with any rivers, says Harchin nervously. No rivers. I hate rivers. They're where the ravens live. I hate ravens. You're lost, man, shrugs Yujiulu, settling Dubo and Tutushan along the banks of the Anobar. No sooner has Anakauna read the parchment than a messenger bursts into the room. Sire, the Karankawa are invading! Oh, sorry, what? The Karankawa? A fleet of Karankawa triremes gets into formation off the coast of Mamay. Joseph Maria himself paces on the deck of his flagship, overseeing the bombardment. His fists are tightly clenched. This time I won't screw up. This time I won't screw up. This time I won't screw up. He tries very hard to put any thought of peace deals out of his mind. I'm sick of being a chieftain, says Felipe Camarao. It lacks a certain je ne sais quoi. What about... He snaps his fingers. Khan. Yeah, I could be Shrimp Khan. I want to be Khan of the Shrimp Khanate. I am not calling you Shrimp Khan, says Apawena. Just as Circassia calls off the war with Sumer, a new one breaks out right next door. It's Bactria this time. Ever since Phoenicia lost Byblos, their eastern territories have been totally cut off. Demetrius notices this and sees a golden opportunity to expand to the south. He declares war, and the Elephantarchs start marching south into Persia. The Banuba wars are heating up. The Ternate theater seems to be stalling, which makes sense given Banuba's now fighting on two fronts. New South Wales' main focus seems to be the city of Gorong Ngadja on Bali. John Damara reads the latest correspondence from John MacArthur, sighs, and starts writing his response. Look, mate, no. I'm not letting you have Bali. Not after the last time you visited. I'm not spending another Sunday picking up VB tinnies off the beach. Find somewhere else. MacArthur isn't happy. Why do they need Bali so much anyway? It's wasted on them. Dumb cunts don't even know how to party. He stops for a second, and a grin slowly spreads across his face. Help me get a letter to Luo Fangbo. I've got an idea. Sitting in his office in the capital, Luo opens the envelope and reads it. Now there's an idea, he murmurs, and gestures to his assistant. Ganjing, call off that war with New South Wales, will you? The fire burns low, painting the cave in shades of black and dull red. Dihya sits very still in the darkness. You might almost think she's asleep, but no. She is merely deep in thought. With careful deliberation, she draws one more pinch of powder from her bag. A slow smile spreads across her face. The last few were mere practice. This is the one that really counts. Another face appears in the fire. It's Joao's. The people of Odian and Admedius are caught completely off guard when they suddenly find themselves under attack. Portuguese soldiers are marching in from Leira. Samori grimaces when he hears the news. It's official. Wasulu is at war with every single one of its neighbors. After years of wandering, the lost band of Pegu have finally settled down. Now, I know it might look like a desolate expanse of snow and ice, says John, their leader. I know a polar bear ate Hita the other day, but there's just something about it. I think this might be the place. Maybe here, he gestures at the frostbitten landscape, we can build paradise. The village is named Mat Maluim. It's not an easy life, but in their own way, the people are happy. They have no idea that far to the south, their countrymen are being slaughtered. Hanseatic triremes smash into the walls of Trenin. The people of the League remember the sack of Rostock, and they demand vengeance. Rockvere was merely a pittance. Jürgen Vollenbeaver is out for blood. In the woods near Chinishishilu, an argument is breaking out. You're not a raven, are you? Asks one of the spearmen suspiciously. Who, me? Says the Tlingit scout, backing away. I don't know, Yavachte. She's got a pretty raveny face, says the other. He lowers his spear. The scout turns and runs, heading for Avacha. The spearmen, struggling not to trip over their spears, give chase. She's a damned raven, and I know it. Don't let her get away. The Japanese-born Admiral Katsu Kaishu is seeing to the shipbuilding progress in Dimaluru when he hears shouting from the soldiers on the walls. A great rumbling sound fills the air, and the sky is blotted out by a cloud of dust. He rushes to the battlements and looks out into the outback. Horsemen, hundreds of them. It's the Rum Rebellion. No, the Rum Battalion. Far behind the battle lines, MacArthur paces his stables, bottle in hand and swaying slightly. Horses! I like horses. We need more horses! he slurs, and takes another swig. The expedition continues on across the Pacific, missionaries in tow. All this land ripe for the taking, says one of the captains. We'll have to send word about this. Think of the possibilities. Pontiac makes peace with the Pomo, realizing he isn't really getting anywhere. Space is running low in Siberia, but Kara Kitai manages to squeeze in the twin cities of Ilik and Yarkand in the northern mountains. A few Japanese ships hover in the straits leading into Nanzan. The sailors shudder and mutter prayers, knowing who dwells within the accursed city. Shoshin staggers through the streets, glassy-eyed and raving. Those Itil men, they aren't settling the rivers, he growls. Why aren't they settling the rivers? Medina falls as expected. The Ores now have a clear shot at the Wasulu capital. They start gearing up for a final push. Meanwhile, in the north, Portuguese ships start attacking Admedias. Zazau's advances in the south don't seem to be going anywhere, though. Dihya adds another log to the fire and settles back. And now we wait, she says to no one in particular. She fights the urge to start toasting marshmallows. Mutama falls to Lanfang for the second and likely final time. Hong Sawatoy, meanwhile, is on the brink of capture. Bangladesh has the city surrounded on all sides, and the defenders are quickly running out of able-bodied men to man the battlements. Shin Saobu quietly slips out of the city in a little boat and sails up the river to Dagon. The capital will fall within the day. Time's running out for Pegu. The two spearmen are almost to Avacha when their path is cut off by a man on horseback. It's Yuri Hlushko. What the hell do you think you're doing? He looks pretty pissed off. They shuffle their feet awkwardly. Well, there was this woman, says one. She was a raven woman, mumbles the other. Can't be having ravens, mister. Gotta kill her, like. Yuri kneads his brow before finally snapping. I am so sick of you lot, he growls. The spearmen back away anxiously. You never shut up about rivers and ravens, and now you have the audacity to barge in here looking to kill people. Well, if that's what you're looking for, so be it. He unbuckles the war horn from his belt. Soldiers pick up their weapons and start marching north. Green Ukraine is at war with Itilmen again. From the safety of the woods, the scout looks on, smiling slightly. All according to plan. Jandamara suddenly finds himself on the back foot, with Ternate suddenly conjuring up a counterattack and moving on Galela. New South Wales is also gradually chipping away at the defenses of Gurung Ngaja. The Rum Battalion, however, has been a resounding failure. The riders keep getting lost and falling off their horses. Guess too much rum can be a bad thing. Who'd have thought, says MacArthur. Next time we ought to try whiskey. Now that the war is over, Essie Parish desperately needs some R&R. She decides to construct a second resort in Hawaii, on the Big Island this time. She's even considering a third one by the look of that settler. I wonder where that fleet of Japanese ships is heading. The first of two northbound Karankawa settlers stakes out a claim on Newfoundland. In the corner, you can just about see that Tlingit settler, still headed eastwards. Hong Sawatoy falls. It's almost a wonder it lasted this long. The kingdom of Pegu is now reduced to the lands around Dagon, a meager prize for whoever decides it's worth the effort of taking. Yunnan eyes up the remains of their old rival, thoughtfully. Estonia seems to have weathered the first wave of attackers. Taking advantage of the respite, Lennart Meri hastily sends out peace offerings to his more distant enemies. Yeah, I see that on the sidebar. We'll get to it soon. That horizontal purple line on the map isn't actually the equator, it's Luba. Ilunga Sungu heard about the concept of going wide and didn't quite get it. He's done a pretty good job of committing to it, though, now perfectly splitting Africa in two. The one outlier is the city of Kabongo, sitting rather too far south to truly be part of the line. Clearly, these people are not truly committed to the horizontal cause, and have been consequently shunned by the rest of the Luba. Ethiopia's war against Phoenicia is going at a snail's pace, no pun intended. The defenders of Nashak have the Ethiopians held back in the mountain passes, and a steady stream of biremes keep the city supplied from the sea. In a twist no one expected, the main theater of the new Itelmen-Grucrane War is at sea. Grucranian ships have terrain on northern Honshu completely surrounded, and are preparing to fully take it. Seems unlikely the Itelmen will be able to retake it, but they should be able to hold off Grucrane in the straits. Malka and Uhkolok will be safe for now. A Japanese settler tries to snake his way through the battle on the way south. Sorry, excuse me, coming through. The north is getting too crazy these days. He's going back to the capital. Old Shihes looks around the newly settled outpost of Tesinig. What did you say they called this place? Florida, my lord. Florida. Huh. Shihes looks thoughtful. Can't say I remember hearing that name before, and yet I feel it awakening something in me. The battle rages on outside Mame. The Karankawa engage the Zaraguan fleet up north, while in the south, Teotihuacano's ships take a pass at the city itself. Yanomami is there for moral support. Back in Yagawana, Anakauna keeps glaring at the slip of parchment in her hands. Nothing ever happens in my ass, she mutters. France has appointed Rommel as one of their generals. Did I mention Ronald Reagan's going to be running for the Democratic nomination too? Strange world we live in. Meanwhile, up north, Royale continues to reinforce their continental holdings, settling Bunowan in Normandy. The region's been at peace for a while now. Maybe too long. The armies are getting restless. Everyone holds their breath, waiting for it to all boil over. Samori Touré makes a daring push down the Niger and retakes Medina. Portugal is still causing problems up north, but Zazao's invasion seems to have petered out. Amina herself is starting to have second thoughts. Why did I declare this war again? I mean, don't get me wrong, I hate that guy, but I don't know. Something doesn't feel right. She doesn't stop fighting, though. A sort of anti-zombie coalition has been forming against Shoshin. Anti-Zo, if you will. He's a freak of nature, says the captain of the Teotihuacano ship currently bombarding Nanzan. All that stuff he's saying about a room with 63 chairs. It can't be right, can it? You can get in real trouble saying things like that. Erich Maria Remarque pens his new novel, All Quiet on the Ryukyu Front. This prompts Humabon to go, actually it was quite loud, and then declare war again for the hell of it. He then realizes he forgot to send any units. We can't keep doing this, whispers Mary. What if someone finds out? Grace looks up at her and smirks. Fuck 'em. Terrain falls, and the naval battle between Grucrane and Itelmen begins in earnest. A Tlingit ship sits at anchor safely out of harm's way, watching, raven banners flapping in the breeze. Sheikh and Essie Parish might hate each other's guts, but the same doesn't always hold true for the people. Here we see a Tlingit and a Pomo artisan working together on a compound of totem poles on the border, a rare show of unity in a land so heavily divided. People from as far away as Karal and Yanomami have come to see the exhibit. That's up until some Tlingit officials rock up on the shore in boats. You better knock that off, they say. There'll be no art made with those barbarians. The Tlingit artisan is taken away. Months of grueling warfare have finally paid off. Gurang Ngaja is New South Wales. John MacArthur jumps off the boat and wades ashore through the surf, keg under one arm. "I beg you to be careful, my liege," says the captain of the ship, ducking to dodge a Banuban arrow. "The enemy is still in the area." "Oh, fuck that," screams MacArthur. "Let's go party, lads." Ternate's fully turned things around in the north, now threatening to retake both of their lost cities. Jandamara is torn in two directions, not wanting to lose his Indonesian holdings, but also wanting to preserve his new gains. Sitting in his office in Dongwan Li, Luo Fangbo signs off on another document. "That one's for Pegu," he says to his assistant Ganjing. "Make a few copies, will you? We've got a few places to send it." Ganjing hurries off, and Fangbo leans back in his chair. Mat Maluim. Where even is that, anyway? The villagers of Mat Maluim are getting ready for another day of fishing when a strange man rides into the village. He identifies himself as Ganjing, a company representative of the Lanfang Kongsi, and that he bears news of the recent treaty signed by Shin Saobu, a name the villagers barely remember. He presents a writ to John, who reads it aloud. Under the terms of the recent treaty, all colonial possessions of the Kingdom of Pegu are to be ceded to the Lanfang Kongsi. Current inhabitants are henceforth asked to vacate their property within 3 to 5 business days. He grimaces and looks around at his people. Paradise is lost. As the former residents begin to tearfully load up their boats and sail away, Ganjing looks around and sneers. "Wait, this is what we signed for? This shithole? What a fucking ripoff." Ethiopia's capital may be small, but its architecture is some of the finest in the world. They've just unveiled what I believe is their first monolithic church. Offers a few bonuses for faith, production, and great works of writing. Given they need hills to be built, you can expect to see a lot more of these. Just as Joao's warships are about to enter Admedias, he notices a new flag hoisted above the city. Or rather, an old one, because Ores have just snuck in and retaken the city. Medina falls back to Ores again, and the front is back to the capital. Samori Toure's desk is swamped with apology letters, the latest being from someone called Yujiulu Mugulu from a place called Roran. "Hey man, I just wanted to say I'm sorry for, telling everyone I wanted you dead. That really wasn't cool of me, man. 'Cause, I don't even really know who you are, man." Ethiopia still hasn't made any headway against Nashak, barely managing to chip the stonework on the walls. Hyksos is actually looking pretty dangerous here, on par with Ethiopia, even. The Tlingit settler had heard the stories, but hadn't believed them. "So, there's this place called Greenland," they'd said, "and it's one long coastline, totally uncontested, ripe for the taking." Now here she stands, with the eastern coast stretching out on either side of her. This seems as good a spot as any. They're gonna love this back home, she thinks. And so the first settlement on Greenland isn't Scottish, or Royale, or even Onondagan, but Tlingit. The second part of Hideyoshi's plan is finally complete, with his unveiling of the Temple of Heaven in Kyoto. The wonder provides extra food and faith during Golden Ages, which, crucially, synergizes perfectly with Chichen Itza's length buff to them. Hideyoshi doesn't have much use for faith, he's not particularly devout, but the food will be very useful indeed. Lanfang declares war on Banuba. That chain of paperwork started so long ago by MacArthur's letter has finally come to fruition. The ships attempting to retake Gurang Ngaja suddenly find themselves on the front line of a new and potentially terrifying war. MacArthur, meanwhile, is out on a pleasure cruise. It's foggy, so he can't see a thing until the boat shakes beneath him with a loud crunch and comes to a halt. He rubs his head. What did we just hit? The first mate squints out at the buildings around them. Dodenga, I think, he says. Gosh. MacArthur looks bemused. Wasn't my intention, but I'll take it. A carrier pigeon lands on the rail next to him. The first mate unstraps the message and reads it. It's from Luo Fangbo, he says. He's taken up your offer of war with Benuba. You're joking. Really? Honestly, I totally forgot I did that. Just as Sarepta starts falling to Bactria in the north, Pakistan takes Uruk in the south. Things really aren't looking good for Sumer. Eanatum rushes after his wife. Inanna, baby, wait! It's not as bad as it looks. I can still fix this. She scoffs. I knew I should have married the quarterback. Shin Sabu makes her last stand at Dagon. She knows it won't be long now. Even if there were any reinforcements, they wouldn't be able to reach her. The city is besieged from both ends of the valley. There's nothing she can do. The Tarkans are still, against all odds, holding back the Ket. Their ranks are starting to thin a bit, though. Only one of the original Tarkans remains in Kara. The Ket's army, meanwhile, is bigger than ever. Humabon did, in fact, manage to scrape a fleet together in the end, and now has Nanzan under siege. Shoshin stands alone on the docks, face gray, arms wide. Humabon, brother, you needn't do this. We have so much to discuss. Have I not told you of Endgame? His monologue is cut off by a boulder straight to the chest. He goes flying across the harbor, crashing into a wall and leaving a dent in the brickwork. He slowly gets up, sighs, and lurches off, but not before stopping to pick up his detached arm. Can't be forgetting that, he mumbles. Green Ukraine finally makes their way through the mountains and starts besieging the Itelmen outposts on the Arctic shore. Yujiulu Magulu watches on. Told him he should have settled those rivers, man, he says. Gotta settle those rivers. But did he listen? No. He shakes his head. After beating Tlingit at war, the Anishinaabe are beating them at settling, too, founding Onegaminsing in the north of Hudson Bay. This has the added effect of nearly totally cutting the Tlingit off from moving eastward. Another settler in northern Quebec looks to further strengthen their hold on the bay. Pontiac might have to be careful, though. Onondaga have a pretty sizable force in the area. As Portuguese ships make their way down the coast, the first outriders of the Ores army arrive outside Bisangdugu. The siege has begun. Samori Toure is still puzzling over all the letters. All these apologies. For what? Who accidentally declares war on someone like that? I'd get it if it was just one, but this many? He looks at the official declarations again. And these, from all over the world, and yet the phrasing is so similar. Something's definitely wrong here. For centuries, Central Africa was a no-man's land. Nomadic settlers wandered the lands, never stopping anywhere for long. That was up until now, of course. A group of Luba called the Kitabi have suddenly decided they want to stay put, and founded a city of the same name. You dare break from the line, says Ilunga Sungu, outraged. You may fly our flag, but you will never be true Luba. Get out of my sight. Patrolling the lands outside Kitabi is a pair of Nzapa Zaps, a kind of Luba swordsman that specializes in capturing cities without resistance and inspiring artists. Despite this, Ilunga has them on much more mundane duty, which is keeping an eye on the errant city. Don't let them forget they aren't a part of the line, he tells them. Sarepta starts crumbling under Bactrian onslaught. Ethiopia, take notes, this is how you invade Phoenicia. Jandamara leads a charge south towards Jijidu, surprised to find the city so lightly defended. The new South Wales invasion force seems to have largely collapsed, in fact. As for John MacArthur, he's nowhere to be seen. some of you are from Jijidu, right? He asked his cavalrymen. I didn't want to promise this until it was possible, but this might be our best chance yet. Men of Jijidu, you're going home. Cheering, they all ride off towards the city that was once theirs. They start to dare to hope it might be theirs again. Maersk McKinney Moeller is in the midst of negotiating a charter for his shipping company in Edinburgh when he has a thought. Has anyone seen Mary? He asks. No one's seen her for nearly a week now, says the charter officer. The Karankawa are scattered to the winds, and the last few Teotihuacano ships are sailing low in the water, punched full of holes by Mame's defenses. They won't pose the city any danger now. It's all they can do to not sink. It looked rough for a while there, but thanks to the bravery and fortitude of the Zaraguan people, nothing ever happened. Back in Yaguana, Anacauna stares at the fortune, a mix of relief and disappointment on her face. I don't know what I expected, honestly, but I suppose I should be grateful. She smacks her lips. Can someone fetch me another of those cookies? Sitting aboard a trireme outside the Tlingit capital, Adam Smith pens Wealth of Nations. Wealth of Nations, you say, says Sheikh. Which nations? He turns his gaze toward Pomo, thoughtfully. Cebu's had enough of taking pot shots at Nanzan, but fortunately Long Yun's here to take over. Hey, can I have a go? He asks, sailing into the strait. Be my guest, says Humabon. Admedius is under attack again. Will Wasolu flip it again? Meanwhile, back in Bisandugu, a new commander joins the cause, one Ettore Fieramosca. Originally from the Papal States, he's fought for armies all over the world. So, you were talking about all this weird stuff with the wars and apologies? Asks Ettore. I heard about something out east, actually. A bunch of leaders suddenly screaming that they wanted to kill you. Very strange. Yeah, that's the really strange part. It's the same story everywhere. It just doesn't make sense. Could be magic, I suppose. Could it now? Ships fill the horizon outside the Banuba port of Mindirardi. Hundreds of them. The word fleet doesn't do it justice. It's an armada. The sky over Gurang Ngaja is bruised purple and orange as the sun dips below the horizon. John MacArthur sits on the beach, listlessly watching the Kongsi troops coming ashore. One of them starts rolling the kegs away onto one of the ships. In the fading light, the Lanfang banner rises above the promenade. It's just not fun anymore, he mutters and tries to take a swig from his bottle. It's empty. He groans. The vanguard of the Lanfang Armada sets sail from the harbor and heads for the mainland, off into the night. Bleary-eyed, MacArthur watches them go. I just wanted to get one up on you, mate. I didn't want this. He falls back into the sand, head in his hands. John Damara, so sorry. Please forgive me. The Onondaga prophet Ezekiel travels westward into Ponca lands, looking to spread the good word of Midewiwin. More Scottish settlements are popping up across the North Sea. The latest is Arbroath in northern Iceland. Another party is headed further westward, towards Greenland. The Tlingit watch them approach, warily. The Uwale settler is still running aground on the Hebrides. A crew of workmen has just arrived to try and dig the ship out of the sand. How the feck did you manage this? Asks the foreman. The settler shrugs. Chakajuj falls to green Ukraine, with Kilush set to follow. In one final fit of pique, Yuri Hlushko mandates the city convert to Sagaanang, the Tlingit religion. Kara Kitai advances towards the Mysore city of Salem, Yalu Dashi at their head. The men roar and clash their weapons, hungry for blood. Dashi reaches the foot of the walls, cups his hands to his mouth, and calls out, Tipu Sultan, we have you outnumbered. Surrender Salem to us now, or face imminent destruction. Yeah, go ahead, it's yours, says Tipu Sultan from the top of the walls. He tosses down the keys to the city. I wasn't really using it anyway. Yeludashi stands there as Tipu's retinue vacates the city and starts the journey back across the Tarim. He stares at the keys, then back at his army, and sighs. Nobody likes an anticlimax. Yes, as you doubtless noticed, Taizong's finally going in for the kill. That thing had better stay dead this time, he growls. The first Tang soldiers start arriving outside Nanzan. Long Yun throws in the towel. Yeah, I can't really compete with that, can I? Tipu Sultan arrives in Mysore, finding it more or less how he left it. That is to say, it's crazy crowded. They ran out of city spots a while ago, so the land is absolutely rammed with out-of-work settlers. I think I might be able to see a spot north of Calicut, but if there is, the settlers haven't found it yet. Tipu also makes peace with Taizong, but apparently decides not to give away Karwar. Mustering together all their naval might, the E10 men have stormed back into Touraine. What seemed like an easy grab for Green Ukraine is now looking a lot more contested. It's here, it's happening, it's a thing. It's Pomo versus Tlingit and Teotihuacan. Fetch your popcorn, folks. This is gonna be big. Our first look at the war is the Tlingit-Pomo front. Pomo's army is a bit sparse and very spread out. Tlingit's, meanwhile, is much more concentrated in the north. Looks like their plan is to sweep down through Pomo's Great Plains territories into the Rockies. It helps that they finally made peace with Pontiac, so they can really focus on conquest. Closer to their core, most of their force is naval. Given most of Pomo's cities are inland, Tlingit might struggle to do much in that theater. Outside Behepal, the totem poles, once a symbol of unity between the two peoples, have been taken down and replaced by a mundane lumber camp. After weeks out of sight, Mary, War Lady of Scots, finally reappears. She arrives back at Edinburgh to officiate the opening of Nan Madol, an extension to the city built on artificial islands in the Firth of Forth. The project is forecast to massively increase the productivity of the seas near the capital. That's +1 gold food and production for you stats nerds. Is there anyone you'd like to dedicate this to, my lady? Asks Maersk. Mary smiles slightly wistfully, but says nothing. Up in the northern fringes of Europe, Harakur I is crowned first king of the Biarmians. He insists that everyone call him the Dragon King. Absolutely no one does. Biarmia's war with Estonia has stalled out. Their Ashen Slayers keep getting stuck in bogs. Space is running out everywhere, even in the Sahara. Orez settlers scramble for one of the last available spots, but Hyksos beats them to it. They squeeze Maketi in south of Meskiana. As far as cities go, it'll fall the second Orez so much as sneezes. The first ships of the Lanfang Armada are starting to arrive off the coast of Banuba. More and more pass through the straits every day, some heading east to Yarangi, others southward. Mindi Rardi has fallen, and Galela looks soon to follow. Banuba's about to get completely kicked out of Indonesia, and that's the least of their worries. Oh, they're going to destroy him, mumbles John MacArthur. He's still on the beach, sand caked into his hair. I mean, I hated him, kinda, but he didn't deserve this. Luo Fangbo claps him on the shoulder. Ah, cheer up. Don't forget, John, you did ask for this. Zara Yacob is having a revelation. You know what I hate even more than snails? Snakes. He promptly orders his generals to declare war on Ma'in. He somehow convinces Mysore to join him too. If this goes anywhere, I'd be genuinely shocked. Sheikh Muabar Rahman, realizing the diplomatic penalties of killing Pegu outweigh the benefits, decides to sue for peace. Shin Sabu is just about to let herself breathe for the first time in countless days when a party of soldiers comes down from the pass outside the city. Long Yun is at their head. "You thought it was over, didn't you?" he grins, and throws down the gauntlet. Pegu's troubles aren't over yet. Jacob Morenga is bored. It's been a while since the war with Moravi. Why not get ready for round 2? He puts down a citadel between the cities of Tete and Sena, splitting the Moravi in 2. It'll make a good launching point for when he comes in to finally finish them off. What started out as a simple expedition has turned into a traffic jam. A chain of corral boats stretches all across Polynesia. Some people say you can walk from the Galapagos to Samoa without getting your feet wet. Hotu Matua doesn't care. All that business with wars and settlers and trying to win the game, it's so gauche. Things heat up even more in the Great Pomo War. Essie Parish drags Teotihuacan's vassal state Karankawa into the war. It's unclear why. Maybe she's hoping the two will trip over each other, trying to get through the mountains. Regardless, Pomo should have a much easier time defending on this front. However, they are still fighting on 2 fronts, which is always risky. Essie Parish watches her troops hunker down in the foothills when a thought occurs to her. Perhaps it's time to call in an old favor, she wonders. And that old favor was from old Shiheis. With a great cry, the Susquehannock join in the fight on the side of Pomo. Karankawa now find themselves fighting on 2 fronts, and this new one is wide open. Susquehannock troops are already on the way to Coapite. What started off as a regular border conflict is turning into a continental-sized war. Already the teams are taking shape. On one side, Tlingit, Teotihuacan, and Karankawa. On the other side, Pomo, Susquehannock, Ponca, and Zaragua. Will the big guys roll over the little guys, or will the underdogs triumph against the odds? Whatever happens, things will never be the same again. Wasulu, against all the odds, is starting to hold their ground. The battle for Admedias is raging on, while outside the capital, the Ores host is starting to dwindle. They're not out of the woods yet, but the people are starting to hope. Samori Toure strides through the ruined countryside outside Bisandugu. Black magic, he says. It all makes sense now. She's a sorceress. To think I scoffed at those rumors. All those attackers, she must have put a spell on them. It's unbelievable. He turns to look up at the sky. Dihya, wherever you are, he shakes his fist. Cheat all you want, witch, but you'll never grind us down. Dihya watches him in the flames of her fire and frowns. It had all been going so well up until then. Perhaps even sorcery has its limits. But never mind. Magic or no magic, there's still a war to be fought out there. With a sigh, she puts out the fire and steps out into the light. The newly formed Republic of Teotihuacan is gearing up for war. It's a beautiful day in the capital, the sun shining, and a gentle breeze blows through the trees. They're throwing a full-dress military parade to send the troops off in style. President Spear-Thrower Owl watches the festivities from the top of his pyramid. Funny thing, war, he muses. All these different peoples and cultures, kings and queens, we couldn't be more different. And yet, the one thing we can really find common ground on is beating the shit out of each other. And with that, he looks straight at the camera and grins. What is this? Some kind of civilization battle royale? Roll credits. See y'all next week.